Semi-autonomous cars are starting to hit the streets. The Mercedes S550 I'm in has a program called Distronic Plus that is able to steer itself in the lanes when on the freeway, actually speed itself up and slow it down to match the speed of traffic. When you're below 40 miles an hour, it can actually even track the car in front of you, turn with it, go through intersections, come to a complete stop, and resume. You've probably also heard of Tesla's AutoPilot, partly because it's called AutoPilot, which is quite controversial. The car can't exactly drive itself from point A to point B with a click of a button and no driver intervention. Now that caused a lot of people, and this is not Tesla's fault, to push the limits of the system, try to even climb in the back seat while the car was driving itself, and some serious accidents and even a death has occurred because of it. For safety, moral, and legal reasons, warnings have been implemented into the systems to make sure that drivers are still paying attention to the road and have their hands on the steering wheel. In fact, these systems are really just to make the driving experience easier, give you that little guide around the turns, and make it a more relaxing experience when you're spending 6 figures on a Tesla or a Mercedes S-Class. They're also implementing these features in lower-end cars, which is awesome. For Distronic Plus, for instance, when you're activating the system and you're going above 40 miles an hour, if you take your hands off of the steering wheel for over 10 seconds, you get a warning that tells you, please put your hands back on the steering wheel. If you ignore that and you're listening to the radio and you're distracted, it actually turns down the radio, chimes a couple times, and slows down the vehicle. If that doesn't get your attention, you'd probably be screwed and crash anyways, even if you didn't have the semi-autonomous driving feature. Seriously though, pay attention. In Tesla's 8.0 software update, there were also some changes to AutoPilot. Now, Tesla's system can actually go a lot longer than 10 seconds without driver intervention. People have said up to maybe 4.5 minutes, which is pretty impressive. Mercedes' new system coming out in the E-Class and next generation vehicles called DrivePilot is able to do it up to 60 seconds. Really, the key for autonomous driving is to connect all the vehicles and the road with each other. Without that interaction, the communication between the machines, it's going to be really, really hard to have safe autonomous vehicles on the road. The biggest issue is what happens when the vehicle crashes if it's on autopilot? Is that Tesla's fault? Is that the driver's fault? Is it someone else's fault? That is the key issue that causes a huge moral dilemma, especially when a system like that kills somebody. The thing is, people make mistakes, and as machines get better, machines make a lot less mistakes than humans. The issue is the vehicle doesn't feel the consequences of its actions. You don't send the car to jail, the car doesn't feel it when it dies. So if that happens and there is an accident, it's a tricky situation. Let's get to the topic of the video. The Mercedes Distronic Plus deactivates itself after 10 seconds of feeling that you don't have your hands on the wheel. I'm going to try to discover how it senses that, whether it's by touch on the steering wheel itself, whether it's measuring torque or resistance to turning when the motors are activating, or some other feature, and we're going to try to trick it. I'm going to see if we can make this Mercedes Distronic Plus last as long as possible on the freeway. Before I get on the freeway, let me activate the system at low speed. So let's push it up. You can see Distronic Plus, 25 miles an hour. Let's bump it up to 35. Now it's going to steer myself in the lanes and slow the vehicle down and speed it up with traffic. But after 40 miles an hour, it won't let me take my hands off the steering wheel for more than 10 seconds at a time. All right, so now we've activated the system. We are going 60 miles an hour. It's steering itself in the lanes. This is a bit scary doing this, honestly, especially on the freeway, but I'm pretty confident in the system. Now, after about 10 seconds, of course, it's going to tell me to put my hands back on the steering wheel, which I will do. But what happens if we trick the system by not putting my hands on the steering wheel, but by doing something else? Because this is a very serious automotive channel, I've got 2 items from the Secretary of State officially used in autonomous driving testing. I'm going to strap these on to both sides of the steering wheel to act as hands and see if the pressure of having hands or official government tools keeps the system from thinking that you're not having your hands on the wheel. I actually think it's really impressive that the car is able to do this in inclement weather. It's absolutely pouring rain and the visibility is reduced, yet Mercedes is really able to do a good job. All right, so we're gonna stick this instrument on the left side of the steering wheel. And then this guy, we're gonna stick on the right side as the other hand. And let's see how long we can last with the self-driving Distronic Plus with my 2 friends here guiding me at the wheel. All right, well, it's giving me a chime telling me that that's not an acceptable method. So it's clear that just touching the steering wheel isn't enough to trick it into going forever. So now we're gonna test the second theory, and that is that it measures torque against the motors that are controlling the steering wheel during the Distronic Plus. I've attached my Canon G7X to the steering wheel via some electrical tape. Excellent engineering there. And now we're gonna see if it can actually go forever. My one worry is that it's gonna pull it off to the side and it's gonna keep kind of running into the right lane, but we'll see. If it can correct itself, I'm thinking that the bumps in the road are actually gonna wiggle the camera enough to trick it into thinking that I'm putting slight inputs into the steering wheel. Let's see. So far, so good. Oh, it worked. All right, so there you go. That's how you make a Mercedes S-Class with Distronic Plus, or any of the Mercedes with Distronic Plus, last forever. I'm sure this works on a Tesla as well. I'm just simply hanging my vlogging camera from the side of the steering wheel. It's applying a slight torque to the wheel and convincing it that I am touching the steering wheel. Now, what's the point of this? To see what method Mercedes is using and all the manufacturers are using to determine that you are actually in control of the vehicle. And it does seem like this way makes the most sense. It's the most cost effective, easy to monitor because the motors are already acting to turn the steering wheel. There we have it. I can drive forever. I'm gonna fall asleep now and edit the video in the back of the Mercedes. So if you don't see this video get posted, that probably means there was a mistake. I don't recommend doing this at all. In fact, don't do this at all. If in fact you're not paying attention and the car tries to drive itself and it crashes, you could kill yourself, kill others on the road, damage your car. Many different things that wouldn't be good. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like always, please browse our channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.